All right, on today's show, I welcome on a very special guest. He is a legend in the coaching community. He's a 13-time coach of the year, former coach of Rogers High School. Now he runs his own basketball camp. Coach Jim Psaras. Coach, how are you today?
Great. Thanks, Jeff. I appreciate you having me on.
No problem, Coach. I'm excited to have you on. It's awesome, to have someone with your resume and everything that you've done in the coaching community. It's great to have you on the show.
It's great. Anytime I can talk about, my past in a positive way to help someone, I'm willing to do it and try to help or mentor anybody, that would be willing to listen. I'm willing to help anybody because, you have to give back, so giving forward.
Definitely, that's for sure. It definitely helps comes around when you get back and help out, and someone else helps you out down the line. So it's awesome that you're able to get back. Coach, how are you doing during these weird times with COVID and everything?
It's just there's not much you can do. You gotta stay safe. I try to immerse myself and what I'm doing with my academic stuff with kids, in my classrooms, my my physical education classes for elementary kids, and then I just try to stay up with the times of basketball, constantly continue to expand my knowledge and expand you know the challenges of the way the game's being played now, and just try to spend time with my kids, my family, my wife, and enjoy the opportunities we have.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. That's really good. It definitely sounds like you're really busy during these times, and I think it's a good time to explore some things too with some family that you get to spend more time with them, and always being at home, right?
Yeah, oh yeah, it's nice. You wish you could go someplace, you try to go to places, but it's like Groundhog Day. You're just living the day over and over and over again, and it's you just gotta. I try to get outside in this cold weather when we have daylight and before the sun sets, which is really quick once school's out, and just try to get outside, get some fresh air, and just try to enjoy what you can, and just enjoy each and every day.
That's right. Yep. That's the best way to do it. I think that it's such a positive spin on so many negative things that are going on around us, and I think that's the best way to do it. So, Coach, before we get into it, I want to know how you got into basketball.
When I was a kid, I would go out and play in the driveway and shovel snow and move it out. Back then there was no distractions, so you either got out of the house or you just, you were bored. And I just played at the Y, the boys clubs, and just took a love to it at an early age. And then when I played in high school with my high school coach, when I was an undergraduate student, the story of me and how my coaching started and how it kind of went up the ladder was kind of unique and interesting. My coach had high school asked me if I wanted to coach middle school in Newport at Thompson Middle. At the time, it was Thompson Junior High School, and it had the seventh, eighth, and ninth grade there at the time. And I said, yeah, and then that's when my journey began.
That's awesome. And like, what was it like? You had moved up as well, like through the ranks of your journey there. Like it was from middle school to freshman, the JV, then eventually the varsity. What's that transition like?
It was fine. It was such a learning curve that you were constantly learning, each level. Fortunately for me, um, my my first team was the seventh and eighth grade group, and then I moved up with them about 10 days into the next season because this coach had left because of job commitment. So I had literally, 75% of those kids that I had the year before, and added a couple of pieces from other kids who had come in from another school. And then the following year, the JV coach left, and I moved up again. And then the following year, my high school coach left to, um, being assistant at University of Rhode Island as a volunteer. And before you know it, I was a head coach. Each step of the ladder was a unique and interesting ride, to say the least.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's very interesting. That's sometimes you don't really see that from the jump all in the same school. It was all within middle school, the all the way from freshman to high school, the JV to varsity. That's really crazy.
Yeah, it gave me a rapport with the kids. It gave the kids an understanding of, I was able to develop a relationship with my kids. Some of them are now, highly successful in their field, and they're like become my lifetime friends because I was young at the time. I mean, I was, I think, 20 years old when I, was coaching in middle school. So, I wasn't that far apart. And then obviously into high school, I continued to develop that relationship, and they knew me. And, it built a great foundation, which I think was really important for our um, our success, excuse me, our success over a long period of time. I think that was key to how the foundation was laid early, which led to obviously, our success at Rogers.
That's awesome. And now the 5-star basketball camp, how did that have an impact on you before? Does that before you started coaching at Rogers, or was that while you were at coaching
Actually,
Rogers?
it's a great question. Um, I was an undergrad at University of Rhode Island when I got the middle school job, and then I was still an undergrad, finishing my last year when I became the varsity coach. And at the time, I used to play intramurals with a lot of there was some former scholarship players on the basketball team that were on the same intramural team as me. There were two Scotty brothers, Gavin, Scotty, and Chris Scotty. And we played in the same intramural team. They were like 6'9", 6'8". They had already
Wow.
had their scholarships. They had no, their scholarship time had run out. And we had played intramurals together. And they introduced me to Lee Klein. And Lee Klein's dad was Will Klein, who was the co-director of the 5-star camp. Lee was the manager of the University of Rhode Island men's basketball team, and Lee was, one of the people that helped his dad and Howard Garfinkel run camp. So they put me in touch with Lee Klein, and the rest was history. Lee said, "Sure." I ended up getting an opportunity to work a year before I became the head coach, and the winter, and it was just that was like if I had laid the foundation, with all those, years being in the middle school and JV, really, it was like I added an extra foundation on top of it to
Wow.
solidify it. 5-star was probably the greatest experience of basketball I've ever had. Uh,
That's that's so cool.
yes, I mean the family tradition there, the coaches, the players, they just came out. Um, it's actually through Slam Magazine because they purchased 5-star with a bookazine. It's like a coffee table style book that is absolutely just got it in the mail yesterday, and it's absolutely terrific. It just talks about the history of camp, and for those that don't know that will watch, the history of 5-star is really what changed basketball. I mean, basketball is different now than it was, but that's where camp started. So when people modeled, their camp, they modeled it after the 5-star setup with stations. The teaching was incredible. I mean, you look at the history of the coaches that have gone there and the players that have been there, from professionals to college. It's just endless. It's worth the time for someone to that's interested in history to look it up. So I think I wouldn't be here sitting with you unless I'd gone through 5-star and worked as a staff member for 11 years.
Wow, that's awesome. And any like players that you worked with like during a 5-star, like big names and coaches that you worked with?
Yeah, I mean, Vince Carter was on my team when he was a junior in college.
Wow.
I mean, junior high school, excuse me. He
Yeah.
wasn't known yet. Jason Williams, who played at Duke and ended up in the Chicago Bulls before the motorcycle accident. Coaches, when I started working, John Calipari was an assistant coach there at the University of Pittsburgh.
Wow.
So it's just an example. I mean, I could go on and on and on. I mean, there are Grant Hill was at camp, Stephon Marbury, God Shamgod. I mean, Tim Thomas. I mean, you're talking like in the Northeast or the East Coast. I mean, a lot of these kids all ended up playing. Not all of them, because the camp was so layered with talent.
Yeah.
I mean, Rasheed Wallace. I mean, it was just incredible to be, at a camp in the mountains. Back then, the only way you could communicate with home was with a payphone, and it was basketball, 24/7, 16 hours a day. And back then, we ran camp for 7 days.
Wow.
It was just incredible. The
That's
knowledge, I mean, that you learned, from coaches. Bob Hurley Sr. started there. I mean, it just goes on and on.
That's so cool. That's awesome. What was it like, coaching those guys too? Like with the competitors, like what's those competitions like? Were those guys really competitive with each other?
Yeah, I mean, the summertime, I mean, if I worked, depending on 2, 3, 4 weeks of camp, I got a coach. I had to coach kids that you just met. You had to develop relationships with them in a short period of time, gain their trust in a short period of time, and learn strategies. I'll never forget watching. I wasn't even in the game. I was watching an out of bounds play one time late in one of the games, and watched the team who had the ball was up, I think, a point, and they were trying to end the ball to bounds the ball at half court, and they threw it towards the backcourt, and the team stole it, took one dribble and laid it in to win the game.
Wow.
So it gave me an early lesson, like, you never throw the ball towards the backcourt.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like that. But it was just like one of many lessons that I learned. And I mean, totally honest. I've developed relationships with a bunch of those coaches. And we just actually spoke on one this afternoon, Mitch Bonaguro. We spoke about some things that we've been working on. So no, it's been great. It's
That's
been a big key to our success at Rogers.
That's awesome. That's so cool, coach. It's such a great experience. It's like once in a lifetime experience too, to work with all those players and all that, everything like that, and being a part of that. That's awesome. And you said you brought over that foundation. You said you had that layer of foundation, and then that 5-star impacted that, added another foundation. What did you bring over to the Rogers?
I mean, the knowledge.
Yeah.
Knowledge. I mean, it was like, there was clinics you could go to back then. Now there's so much opportunity to learn different things, but it's what you see, but it's on a video. Where here I was hands-on watching with my 2 eyes live, the technique that something was being taught, the strategy and watching it, and then being able to sit there, when we went out, either at dinner, at lunch, or at breakfast, talk to the coach, and I'm talking the elite of the elite coaches, high school coaches, work in camp, that turned into college and high school coaches. I mean, Rick Pitino, John Calipari, Pete Gillen, Will Ray. I mean, it just goes on and on and on. And I was able to take that and bring it back and mold it to the kids in our community and make it a fit, because, you go to a clinic and you're like, oh, I like that, I'll put that in. But if it doesn't fit your kids, your players, and not only the skill set, but also the type of kid and player they are, and what motivates them, you got to have. So I learned a lot and constantly learned a lot, and was able to bring that back and make it fit. Like I have always described it like a puzzle. It was a puzzle piece, and I was creating my own puzzle and putting the pieces and fitting them together so that I could make what I envisioned as a program from all the if I took this from Bobby Knight, who was lecturing at camp one day, or Chuck Daly, or the next time was Rick Pitino, or one day it was John Calipari. So you took the best from the best and you tried to bring that into your program to make your program the best. And that's kind of how I thought about it.
That's awesome. That's so cool, and absolutely amazing. That's a good approach of it, kind of putting the puzzle pieces and see what fits your team in the mold of it as well too. And what was it like to take over the head coaching job at Rogers, and how did you create that philosophy and culture there?
Well, I mean, the tradition at Rogers High School with their athletics. I mean, there are so many successful programs in our state, but Rogers athletics as a whole is just as successful a high school, a public high school as any school in the state. And the time I took over, we had, like I said, a bunch of good teams that had played ahead of us. And after I graduated, and then I just happened to get lucky, and the timing in life is everything. And I was able to time things pretty well, and able to get guys that bought into what we wanted to do as a program, and how to go about success, and how we wanted to strive towards success, and continue to try to reach excellence, and hoping at some point to pass success on our way up to excellence. And it was challenging. I mean, I'd be such a better coach today than the day I started, and since the day I retired. Um, it's just amazing what you continue to learn from anybody and everybody.
That's true. It's very true. I mean, there's always someone to learn from and things that you can pick up along the way. And there's the game is always changing and growing. I feel like over the years, like you said, you had mentioned you're watching stuff of how the game's changing now. With I feel like we went from like it was a big man's league. Now we're like positionless almost.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting, like watching some of our old games. I gave about, God, I think I told Henry Coleman, the coach of Mount St. Charles, must have given him, I think it was over 400 games that we had. And looking at some of the games the way we used to play, I was like, wow. Defensively, it would definitely transfer. We would be so much better defensively because there's so many more things that I would do, and so many more things that I know now. Offensively, depending on your kids, but I mean, there's so many different ways to play the game, but the game's changed so much, and I could see at a point in time, we never had per se big men. I had a few, you count them on one hand, but I mean, when I say a few, I mean like 6'4", 6'5".
Yeah, yeah.
We were always, what I thought, was our staple was our toughness, and our work ethic, and competing all the time, and then just being accountable towards each other, and being accountable to each other, and that meant coaches and players. And I just think that doing all those things and putting all those things together is challenging, but if you get the buy-in and you can communicate with the kids and reach the kids, help the kids understand, I think you can do great things. And you got to develop that trust. Now, you don't get it 100%. Any coach will tell you that you don't get 100% buy-in from everybody that walked through the door, that put the jersey on, that represents your school, because different people look at their situation differently. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And I try to get our group, and we try to look everything from a glass that was about us and not about I.
That's great. That's really great. And what do you like? Do you guys set goals? Do you write them on like a board or anything like that, or like, how does that work out for you guys?
We talk about goals, you know, um, but I think the goals for us were just like the individual team goals that we categorized, that we lived those towards those goals, and let the rest of the goals fold it. I mean, everybody wants to win the state championship.
Yeah.
People have no idea how challenging those that is, and to strive to get it, you gotta have talent, obviously, but you're also going to have luck. And so, yeah, we'd have the goals, but I think, we set a bar, and each and every year there was a tradition that we spoke about, and the next group up, the next kid up had to understand that you were part of a tradition here, and that tradition was talked about all the time. And so when we went into another gym, it wasn't like, you know, we were representing our community, the city of Newport, and it's sometimes when we played out of state or played out of state teams in our gym, I mean, we were representing, our community. So there was a tradition that we had to uphold.
That's great. And I think that's awesome that you instilled that too, that tradition of the Rogers tradition. And you had spoke about championships. I mean, you won back to back to back. You won it 3 times in a row. And you
It was actually
was
we won in 90 and won in 91. In
okay.
92, we lost in the semis by one.
Oh, really?
Then we won in 93.
Wow, wow. So what's it like, winning those like state champion? I know you mentioned some of it's luck, but like, and talent and what's it like to win, two in a row, then come back another year for a fourth, almost make it a 4 years in a row, pretty much.
Yeah, I mean, it was interesting. It's such a long time ago, and it was just like such a wonderful time ride because the first one was like the first time we had won in 27 years.
Wow.
It was like, and you know, we just had we had great kids that played hard and obviously skilled players, but we had a toughness about us, and we played defense, and we kept ourselves in every game because of defense. And offense would just, for me, you know, people can be fancy with the X's and O's, and for me, that really wasn't what was important. What your offense you were running. It was understanding where you could put your players in the best position to be successful. So you had to understand your athletes, and you know, we had some of the best games, top 10 games that we played in our history that I was part of were during those 5 or 6 years. I mean, we would just when we battled Hendricken, like back then. I mean, in '90 when we beat Hendricken in the state finals,
Wow.
and then upset them. 91, I think it was 91. We upset them in the quarters because I could be confusing. No, I think it was 91 that we upset them. They beat us by 25 points like 10 days prior in the last regular season game, and then we beat them in the quarters. I don't know if it was overtime or not overtime.
Wow.
But, I mean, I think Hendricken's probably in the top 10. 7 of the top 10 games were against Hendricken.
Wow.
That's how strong the rival was back in those early 90s to mid 90s.
That's so cool. Does Coach Coleman have those videos that he put up on YouTube?
They're all on the YouTube page, but I already had them on my YouTube page.
Yeah.
Now, so they're on my YouTube page, but Henry has them all, and they're all up there, 90, 91, everything. So, yeah, they're up there. And even some of the games that were regular season games and playoff games, he has those. Yeah, they're there. Yeah.
That's crazy. Yeah, I gotta watch those. I definitely have to check those out.
Yeah. I mean, one game I wish I don't know where it is, but I don't even know why we didn't video it. I think we did, but it might have been because the crowd was too big. Was when St. Anthony's from Jersey City came in 1993 to play us in January. Bobby Hurley Sr. was coach. They were ranked 4th in the country, and they came to play us and then played New Bedford on Sunday. And we were up 1 at the end of the first quarter. We were down, I think we were down 3 at half. And then they pushed to an 11-point lead at the end of a 13-point lead at the end of the third quarter. And then I think we lost by about 15 points. But I mean, they had like 3 or 4 Division I players. Rashawn McLeod, who ended up playing St. John's and Duke. And they had a kid, Jalil Roberts, who played at Wisconsin. So that game's probably, top 2 or 3, but so it was just it was a fortunate time for us, and just a great time for Rogers High School.
That's awesome. That's so cool. Man, if you ever find that video of the
Oh,
St.
I wish I
Anthony.
could. I don't even know if it exists, but and that's the one I'm wishing like somebody else would have. I called Bobby probably a couple months ago and asked him, I go, "Hey Bob, do you happen to have that game?" And he's like, "Jimmy," he goes, "I gave him in a box. One of the coaches had it, but I don't even know if we have it and if it's anywhere." So I don't think we're gonna find that game.
That's so cool. That gym must have been rocking that day.
Oh, there's a picture of it in the journal when it was here. I have every single article from every game that I coached in, and that one shows the picture of the gym packed down low, but up top, because Rogers was when it was built was like the best high school in the state back in the late 50s. Had 2 balconies, and they put stands up on one side.
Oh wow.
So not only was there lowest seating, but there was seating upstairs on both sides. Like 20, like 2,000 people there that night, and it was an afternoon game on Saturday. But man, the gym, and even with our holiday tournaments, which were packed, nothing was as big that I had been at a Rogers game as that St. Anthony's game.
That's so cool. That's just a cool experience. That atmosphere. That's I can't imagine what that was like. That rocket atmosphere.
Awesome.
That's awesome. That's so cool, Coach. Now, also, you have, if I read that correctly, you have 13 Coach of the Year awards.
Yeah, fortunately, coaches, I guess, thought I did a good job those years as in total, from all league to all division league coach. So yeah, coaches were real kind to think that I was deserving. So
That's crazy. Where are all of them? Do you have them all over hanging up or?
they're all on the shelves behind me. There's a couple of shelves, but keep them up for collectors for my children. So hopefully someday they could show their children and my grandchildren. So um, yeah,
That's amazing. That's a great honor. What does that feel like to be voted that many times by your peers and everything?
I'm just honored and blown away. I mean, it's great when you get one because you're like your colleagues um, thought that you deserved it, but to do that, you know, so many times, you know, it's just I just can't even put into words my thoughts of they thought that that we did that good of a job that year to, to deserve it.
Did you run out of people to thank during your acceptance speeches or?
Oh man, I mean, it's just, I can't even tell you where to start and where to end.
Yeah.
Really, I mean, there wouldn't be enough time.
Yeah. That's just absolutely amazing. I read that. I was like, whoa, that's a lot of words.
Yeah,
That's absolutely amazing. And that tells you what your peers think of you highly and how great of a coach you are yourself as well.
thank you.
You're welcome. And now did your coaching philosophy change over the years from, early 90s to up to you retired?
You know, like our philosophy was like we wanted to play together. You know, we wanted to play together as a unit, and we wanted to make sure that the other team could not function like they functioned on a day-to-day basis. And what I mean by that is we tried to make them uncomfortable and uh, create issues with their timing, sometimes challenge them to maybe bicker with each other, their own teammates, you
Hmm.
know, just by the way we played, how hard we played, and how we would make it challenging for teams to score. And you'd get frustrated. And in the mindset, your mindset would change because you'd get more focused on something else is what we wanted you to do rather than stay focused, laser focused on what needed to be done. So I guess, that's a philosophy that's kind of interesting, but that's how I looked at it. And we just wanted to, instill our will on other teams defensively. And from there, I allowed my kids to play in the open court, to run, to push it, press, you know, man to man. I mean, and now I would do a lot of things different, but our philosophy was I had a lot of things to do, you know, um, on the defensive end. I just put it. That's to me where we started as that's where our core was, and everything we built. And I'm talking on and off the court. There was things in the classroom, things like how we approached our practice, how we approached our program was just like how we wanted the kids to approach life, and see how they could get it, and there'd be so many things I could spend hours and hours again speaking of, what things I would try to do more of and challenge our guys to, have forward thinking.
Yeah. That's amazing. I that's definitely a different coaching philosophy I heard. And but I really like it like a lot. I think that's such a cool, like a different approach to it and a great approach to it as well. Is there now you had mentioned if there's something that you would change, what would that one thing be changed now with now's game?
I mean, I'd probably play, I would do more things. Our core would be the same, but I would do different things defensively to really continue to not confuse my guys, keep things simple, but be able to again, you know, do different things that teams were not used to. And offensively, obviously, it's all predicated on the kids you get and what their skill set and how you're going to play. But I guess I look when I watch games and I go to play some games, and sometimes I just wonder why keep it simple is stupid is what I learned a long time ago, the KISS method.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
you know I think that that's important that people realize. I mean, simplicity and repetition um, can create those habits um, that become muscle memory, and you don't have paralysis by analysis. You don't have brain freeze. You don't have wait a minute, stop, think. It's a constant flow. It's the muscle memory habits. Boom, you know exactly what to do. So I would change those things. You know, I would do a lot more things like with my groups in practice. One of the things I would definitely continue was the once every 4 years we took our team to the Basketball Hall of Fame.
That's so cool.
We took a bus ride up. We'd have breakfast downtown. Families would pack sandwiches. We had the buses back then. We had the videotapes with, greatest dunks, things that kids would watch. But the bus ride was the bonding. The
Yeah.
destination wasn't the Hall of Fame. It was to help them understand history because some kids may never get a chance to go there. It was, then after we'd eat and then we'd drive home. There'd be no practice the next day because we always did it on a Saturday. And then it was like that was part of the bonding. That was part of the building. Sometimes some teams go away for a weekend tournament or they go away here. To me, it was like a different way. So that'd be one things I continue. But you know, how I would approach practice would be a lot different. And again, a lot of details for another time. But I think there's some things that I have on my list, my ever growing list that I need to start really, looking at is, if I am to get back into it, what things I would do, or if I was to help, one of my former assistants or one of my former players, or a situation that really you know, fit me, then, I would be ready to be successful, I think, to help whoever or wherever I would be.
That's great. That's awesome. That's really cool. And that's awesome that you keep up with it and you think about it constantly and have great ideas. And I love the field trip up to the basketball Hall of Fame. I think that's such a great idea. I think that's such a, it's a good bus ride back and forth. And like you said, that's really where the bonding is right there.
Yeah, I mean, one year we tied it into the Hall of Fame tournament, the high school tournament that's in there on Martin Luther King weekend. One
That's
year
aw-
we tied it in there, we went up and we had already purchased tickets to get in the place. So I think when we watched, I think 4 games, I think it was like St. Anthony's played one year, DeMatha played. Um, so they would watch kids from high schools from all over the country that they knew about because they would, read about them. And you see teams and you'd say, wow, this is, and then they would see that. And then we bring that back because, okay, here's part of the mentality we were looking at.
that's so cool. That's awesome that you're able to do that. I think I just saw someone's highlights come up recently about what the Hall of Fame game like I think today earlier on Instagram or something like that. But that's awesome. That's such a great experience. It's great that you do that for your players and your team and they're able to see those like those big names like in the coming up in the college basketball world and see all those plays and be able to bring that back. I'm sure that gets them more fired up to play more and want to
Yeah,
play harder and stuff like that too.
absolutely.
That's so cool. Now, coach, what was your decision to retire after 26 years and what?
I didn't think I would retire. I just felt, I mean, I just turned 57 last week. So, I mean, I was, 2014. So this will be in next year, 7 years since I retired. Wow, I can't even believe that.
That's crazy.
So I literally retired like when I was just after 50. Um, Probably timing. I mean, I poured every ounce of energy in every season, pre, post, off, and in seasons. And my children started getting to an age. My daughter was about to be going into the high school to be a freshman. My son was going to be entering fourth grade academy. And it was at the middle school, and it was the first year they had it. And I just felt like, and when I would go scouting or we'd go to games, and I saw, you know, kids playing and parents, or I just like I didn't want to miss out on their time.
Yeah,
I
that's
also thought it was the right time for me. I needed to change. Um, I just felt like there was I needed to change, but the priorities were my daughter and my son, and that's the change I needed. And so, being that's the case, it was hard for me. It's been hard. It's sometimes even tough walking in the gym,
yeah.
at Rogers because I still, we run camps there, pre-COVID and stuff, and hopefully we'll be running it next summer. Is that it's just like, I just feel like it's like a lost love that you've lost, and
Yeah,
you
I could
want, but now I try to mentor my former players, my former assistants, coaches in the state. I try to any way to share or help, be a driver of a way to give back to coaches. So um, I'm here to help whoever wants to listen, and so sometimes that's a challenge, but it is what it is. There's always somebody, I just think of myself when I was young, that at the time that I was young, I was always inquisitive, wanting to get better.
yeah.
I told you, a thirst for knowledge, and you wanted to know why, and that's the big now. The kids want to know why.
Yeah.
Me, that was me. I wanted to know why. So I understood that as I, work with the kids. But that's to me what I want to do. I want to just give back.
That's awesome. I think that's great that you want to get back, and I feel like it just really sounds like you're still very much part of the game, no matter what. I mean, after it's only you said you've been retired for 7 years, and still sounds like you're still part of it, taking notes, still learning, and like you said, your why. It just sounds like you're very, you're still part of it and still doing things to be a part of it. And like you said, maybe prepare yourself for down the road for something that could happen for yourself coaching wise or helping
Yeah.
others out. But I think that's amazing. And I think if any coaches listen out there, they should definitely reach out to you and get some advice because
I mean, I'm easy to get a hold of, but like I said, I've had some reach out to me, and we've had some conversations. But like, I love just getting on the phone or getting in a Zoom,
yeah.
talking with coaches. So yeah, I'm all for it. And in any way, I'm learning too.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's a game that we're always going to learn from and try to learn off of it and build from it as well.
Mm,
And
absolutely.
now you, after everything's all said and done, retired, you recently got inducted to the Hall of Fame, right?
Yeah, 2020 was an interesting year. Uh, Please. Um, First, I got inducted. Rhode Island Basketball Coaches Association Hall inducted me. Obviously, we've not been able to do anything with everything with COVID. And then Rogers High School renewed the Hall of Fame this year, and I was one of the, or going to be one of the inductees. Again, with COVID, that had to be postponed until things can happen, I guess. So I just looked at it like, man, I would have never have thought that I would be honored in those ways by my my peers and by high school.
It's truly amazing. I mean, all the honor and everything that's for your career is absolutely just amazing. Everything that you've accomplished and you've been able to get done, and and the span of time you're able to done. It's just absolutely amazing, Coach. Like even listening to you talk, I'm ready to run through a wall. I'm like jump into your system.
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, you get, when people talk about, you know, a Hall of Fame. I mean, you mentioned with the greats like, the Ray Pepins and the Joe Hassett seniors, and then the John Topas, you know, and the Don Coles, and at Rogers and the Charlie Gibbons. I mean, it's just incredible to say that you were thought of and was deserving of something that you know. But to me, it's like we got in because I'm nowhere in that position without my players. They put us in that position. That's a team honor, and my obviously my assistants and our school support. But you know that's a team induction.
Definitely, definitely. It's very true. It's not. There's no I in team, right?
No.
No, definitely not. And now, Coach, you're also still very much part of it. I mean, you run your own camps, but you're also part of USA camps as well too.
Yeah. So a couple of years ago, we they asked me to speak at in Boston at the US Basketball Coaches Academy, and then that same year I worked at their regional camp, and so I was able to work. I think it was two of their regional camps, and it was great. And obviously, they're trying to expand that, and you can't always come back into the area. So what they're doing is like if they're in one part of the country, they're latching into coaches that they want to either share the game or with kids and teach. So they could be in San Antonio, Las Vegas, you know what I mean, Philadelphia, DC, and so they'll reach out there because it's obviously easier for travel.
Yeah.
But again, I got to meet Don Showalter there. Don and I actually, our first conversation, actually, Don, I was connected with Don through Danny Gavitt. Danny Gavitt works for the NCAA basketball committee, and Dan is an important part to NCAA men's basketball and women's. But Dan is the one who put in. Dan and I go back to when he worked at Providence College for Rick Barnes, and I used to work camp there.
Yeah.
So Dan introduced me to Don, and Don and I talked by phone, and then come to know it, my first few years at Five Star, Don Showalter and I actually worked Five Star
Wow.
together.
Wow.
I went back and checked the roster, and sure enough, there was Don coaching one of the teams at camp when I was there. So it's been a great relationship. I talk to Don every so often. I think I talked to him 3 weeks ago. And I've always told him, like, I'm retired. I'm willing to help in any way. I think they're still trying to mold like really what they want USA basketball to be about.
Yeah.
So it's nice, obviously with COVID, there's nothing that's been done.
Yeah.
So waiting to see what direction they're going to go in. But Don knows that, and my name's on the list. He said
Yeah, that's
that
awesome.
if there's something that, they want to get done and they're going to be in our area or Boston or Connecticut. So, you know,
That's so cool. That's so cool that you're able to be a part of that. I mean, you've had
yeah.
awesome experiences, coaches, and made some great connections.
Oh, great. Yeah, great. I mean, great connections, but, great friends and relationships that you build on because life's about relationships.
Definitely. Oh yeah, definitely for sure. That's true. It's very true. I want to ask too about your own camps. I mean, you run your own camps like the Viking summer hoop camps for the
Yeah.
summer, and then you have your own skills academy as well too. What's it like running those, and what's the favorite thing that you get out of running those?
It's a thrill. The camp was like probably, I think it was 1990. Well, I think it was 95. This was going to be, yeah, 95. This is going to be the 25th anniversary of our camp this past summer. I had a celebration planned. We were ready to hit a home run with this, like, like a grand slam.
Yeah.
And it means like to have the kids from not only our community, residing communities across the bridge, people from out of state that come either for the summer, send our kids and I keep our campus. We have 3 weeks of it, 2 younger weeks, girls and boys, and one older week, girls and boys. I try to keep our numbers to a certain number because what I want is I want our coaches to be able to develop relationships with those players. And at the end of the week, we end our camp week with our traditional knockout game.
Yeah.
Now, I actually put a couple of them on our my YouTube page, but it is so fun to see those kids year to year grow and develop a relationship with them. And then all week long, they're enjoying camp, they're having fun, but they're all looking forward to the knockout game because if the coaches win, the campers have to do push-ups, and if the campers win, the coaches have to do push-ups. So it's like this big buildup, and it's just a way for us to end camp, give out some awards that we give out whatever it is, T-shirts or bags or whatever it is that us sponsors are help us with, and to see them leave with a smile on their face, a shirt, a drill book with a evaluation in it, and each year come back with a smiling face. It just leaves a smile like we're making our kids not only better basketball players or skilled, but better people because my Friday lectures like the same every session, every year, and about being a good person. And then my skills academy started, after I retired in the fall and the spring. We were in the middle of it when the pandemic hit.
Oh,
And, it's just giving back to girls and boys. And, it's interesting because, you have people who are just teaching the kids, you know, if it's if it's dribbling or shooting. But what's really important, for me is to share the knowledge of the game with the kids. Yeah, you're teaching them and repping those same things, ball handling, skill work, shooting technique, but being able to really teach the kids more of the game. But again, I try to get the age level down a little bit because at this day and age, some kids just think they know it all and they don't want that. It's
that
not that they don't want the knowledge, it's there's a piece in their brain that says, I don't really need the knowledge, you
Yeah.
know. Um, and so, it was just funny listening. I read something this morning that one of my friends, Tim O'Shea, posted from God Shamgod. God Shamgod was played at Providence. He was at 5 Star when I was there. Terrific article today in social media. But one piece was about Kobe Bryant. And Kobe wanted to be a better ball handler. This is like going back into their high school days. Well, they showed up at whatever camp they were at, not that 5 Star, could have been ABCD. And it was like 6 in the morning and they were working on ball handling
Wow.
because Kobe wanted to get better at ball handling. And so some of the coaches would come down like, what's going on here? These guys have been here since 6 o'clock. Puddles of sweat. And so I say it to be like, Kobe wanted to get better. That was his mentality. So kids that, come to our skills, they want to get better, and you see what they want to get better at.
Yeah.
And okay, well, it's all like this one's, all in. But I try to make sure that, they understand the game and what's important. Like footwork is really an important thing that we work on.
Yeah.
And I don't care if the kid's 8 years old and I got to put them at the 8 foot rim. That jump stop, they're going to understand it. And they're going to learn what a pivot is. And you know what? If they can learn how to do that and get footwork down at that young age, they're going to be far ahead of people, in 3 or 4 years if they continue to grow with the game.
It's true. It's
So I love all of it for all those reasons. I love being with kids because I'm an elementary teacher.
yeah.
So I love being with kids, players. So
Yeah, I love it, Coach. I love that you give back to community, and I love your method of what you try to do. You try to make everyone, you want everyone to be a good person and teach those lessons on and off the court. And I think that's just amazing what those camps are about and how you go about it. And it's just so cool what you're doing and everything like that. And the footwork thing is always huge. It's one of the biggest things that I learned when I was down in Dallas. There's a ton of footwork. That's
it's funny. Like I'll be at I think it was at the arcade downtown Newport, from a camper. And one day I'm in there with my son, and he says, and my son goes in, he's got these tickets. Back then it was like, these streams of tickets,
yeah, yeah.
walks up with like, 1,000 tickets, and it's one of my former campers. And so I told my son it's one of my former campers, and he said, Coach, he goes, I'll never forget, and I always remember your Friday lecture. Now, this at the time was probably about 10 years ago.
Wow,
Probably at this time, he was probably, I don't know, in his 20s.
it's
And
crazy.
so when you hear that, that the lectures impact, especially our Friday lecture, it's like, it just means a lot. Like, you know what, you've made a difference in one person's life, then you've done, your job that week, that day, that month, that year, lifetime. You can change. You made a difference.
Gives you that spark too as well too, because you motivated. I feel like you hear someone say that and it's crazy that like it makes you want to keep going. And that's how I think about it. It's that motivation too as well.
Yeah, yeah.
That's
You
that's
love
that, that's
just
amazing, Coach. That's so cool. I think that's just awesome what you're doing over there on the island and for those kids over in Newport and the surrounding areas.
yeah. I mean, it's a lot of fun. I mean, and you get younger. It's like now the change has been like, okay, before I used to staff it with my former players. Now that I'm starting to get separation from players, it's like now I got to bring in people that I know that will do what we need to do at camp. You know what I mean? That will provide our campers the opportunity, the platform to get really good teaching, someone that'll care for them. And most important, which I tell my coaches, by the end of the week, you need to know every single kid's first name in camp. And
Yeah,
it's not like we got hundreds of kids in a week because you can't fit all the kids in a gym and have them get the proper work,
yeah,
repetition, and one-on-one attention. So, I try to structure our weeks so we have limited numbers so that, the camp can run, where we have enough space to make sure that that we're doing our drills, that they're playing, that they have space to play, and they're not waiting in a line with six people in front of them,
Yeah.
and they get tired because, think about it. There's nobody behind me.
Yeah.
I'm up.
Yeah.
It's not like, oh, you go up. No, oh, you go up. No, it's like you're up. So guess what? The muscle memory's constant. And
Yeah.
you know, so it's interesting that, I still try to get, but my former players, now they're into other jobs and they can't do it and you miss them, but it's like, man, they come back and they like miss it. I wish I could do it for a week. So, you get some of the coaches who are teachers,
Yeah.
that can do it. And we get some women and some that have been working with us for a good period of time. Girls in camp, the girls have exploded with how many girls we get now. And so it's just any way we can give back to our communities and our state, I'm all for, just like our Zooms that we did this past spring.
Yeah.
They were terrific. They were just like, for any coach who didn't attend them, they missed out. But they're all on my YouTube page. I put them all up there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So if you missed out, you can go there and you still gain knowledge. So it's like, okay, who wants to learn? Who wants to get better? But then that's like the tip of the iceberg, Jeff. Now you really got to dig into more of the why, And so any way I can give back to our community and coaches and mentor people or help, I look at it paying it forward.
That's awesome, coach. That's great. And I feel like I feel like any coach should reach out to you. I mean, I might ask you for some advice after this and talk to you about some basketball because I love it. I miss it. It's one of the things I miss being a part of.
Yeah,
But
it's challenging not being around a group.
yeah.
It's been challenging not having kids that you develop a relationship and then build and
Yeah.
build and then build it like past high school.
Oh yeah.
Like I have some now that they're doing terrific things.
It's true.
Challenging.
Yeah, it's true. It's like it's great the relationships that you make with former players and kids that you work with or something like that. I still have great relationships with former players that I coached with Coach Cobley at Wheeler, and just great people over there. So it's just been awesome. But Coach, I got a few more questions, then we'll wrap it up. This one actually comes from your former assistant and now the head coach at Middletown High School boys basketball team, Coach Lendrum. He wanted me to bring this up. Tell us a little bit. He gave us some insight about it, but tell us about when the Celtics were in town. You guys went to,
Oh, we're on the Navy back then. The captain of the Navy base, his son played for me.
Yeah.
Captain Bogle, and his son Alex played for me. And at the time, the Celtics were going to have their training camp that they have held at Salve. They used to hold, in other places, Stonehill. Well, back then, they were holding their training camp on the Navy base in Newport. And Rick Pitino was the coach at the time. He had just gotten the job.
Yeah.
So obviously, at the time I was in elementary school, and I think we went over to watch practice, and I'm sitting right on the bench, like watching practice. Purvis Ellison's playing for the team at the time. I think Ron Mercer, Billups. I think it was Pitino's first year, that draft class. And I have it somewhere in my house. I don't know where it is. I'm sitting next to Red Auerbach.
Wow.
My right is Captain Bogle. Or actually, when we took the picture, Red Auerbach obviously was in the middle. Then Captain Bogle was captain of the Navy, in charge of the naval base. And then I were on the other side. And I remember Red Auerbach turning and making a comment about Purvis Ellison and something, how lazy he was. And just it's him saying, he'll never make it. Like, and Purvis Ellison at the time had just come out. I think he was either a year or two or just come out of college, and it might actually have been a couple years out of college, because he played at Louisville. And I tell you, sitting there watching those practices and Rick Pitino teaching the why. Now, at the time, Pitino was a 5-star guy, so, we went up to him and talked and shit. At the time, he had already been out of 5-star. He'd been at BU, been at Providence, been at Kentucky. So, I think we went out later that night to it was a restaurant downtown Newport.
Yeah.
And he was there. I think Bobby Cremins was there too. Bobby Cremins, the former Georgia Tech coach, had come in to watch practice, like a lot of coaches do. But that was like such a great day. I think I went back one more day to watch the Celtics practice. Rick Pitino at that time was the hottest ticket going in basketball. And then sitting next to Red Auerbach for an entire practice, listening to him talk about basketball was incredible. I hope that's what Coach Lendrum wanted me to answer about, but yeah.
Yeah, he just wanted me to ask you about the experience, because he said it was crazy. He's like, you got to ask Coach Psaras about it, because I would tell you, yeah, that's awesome that you're able to sit next to Red Auerbach and talk to him. What was like sitting next to what was it like his aurora, like being around that guy?
I mean, legends, you know what I mean? Legends. Just, yeah, I mean, I just, there's certain times, there's experiences that you come across that you don't understand just how big that opportunity was for you.
Yeah.
Like at 5-star, like I said, I mean, sitting at a bench and standing and watching, Chuck Daly talk this is like Chuck Daly, who coached the Pistons, the back-to-back.
Yeah.
Dream Team, Bobby Knight, Hubie Brown, who's the best clinician in the history of the game. I mean, these experiences you can't make up. You can't go to you can go to a clinic, but the passion that the Caliparis, Patinos, the Hubie Browns, the Chuck Dalys, I mean, the passion that these guys have, that was the other thing that I learned, was the passion. And learned how to talk in a setting like public speaking. Like, I never forget Chuck Daly. I got to share this with you.
Yeah.
Chuck Daly said one day, and now I've got a lot of these on audio tape, like the lectures. Now, sometimes they're a little difficult to hear. I got some lectures actually, but I remember Chuck Daly saying one time, and I never forget it, and I've shared it with my kids. He said, you never know in life who you're going to meet that could come back at some point in time and have an effect on your life. He says, imagine that you're in a bathroom and you're in a urinal next door to a person and you just have a conversation. That person, in that conversation that you had for 10 seconds, could be someone who later in life could come back and have an impact in some way. And so I remember that in him, and my lesson was, you never know who you're going to meet in life. And so you treat everybody with kindness and care like you would treat. And some people are not, but then you understand. And I remember that. And I said, I'm not going to forget that. And I'm going to share that, make sure that, when you meet everybody that, you try your best to remember your names, which we all struggle with. And, but him saying that, taught me a lot. So it's like, and then you come find out as life's experiences go, and then all of a sudden that person comes back to your life in like a totally different way. And you're like, holy smokes. But because you had developed a good rapport with that person or had a great conversation for 10 seconds, can make all the difference in the world. They may say, you look familiar. And then, you fill in the blanks.
That's awesome. That's a great, I love that. That's a great way to live by. And it's very true. I mean, anyone, you could run into someone, like you said, and then next to them in a year, have a good conversation. Then next, run into him 10 years down the road and be like, oh yeah, you remember that guy? Or even just to pass by and say hi, I love.
You're sitting in an interview and you don't know who's sitting across the desk, and it's that guy that, or that woman or someone that,
Yeah.
you were kind to, or unfortunately, maybe you weren't, and unfortunately, you don't get the job.
Doesn't work out for it.
You know,
Yeah.
I mean, that's just the way it is. But
Just do it. That's how it goes.
yeah, there's so many, and they come back like this. Like, I get in a conversation with you or somebody, and it'll trigger something, and I'm like, wow, God, yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. Coach, this has been awesome. All the stories, you're such great experiences, great stories that we gotta do more of these. I feel like I gotta just get
Yeah.
more stories for sure.
Uh,
Last question before we wrap it up here. What's your favorite thing to do outside of basketball?
What's my favorite thing to do outside of basketball? It's a great question. I love going to the beach with my wife. Um, I love spending time with my kids. Like, my son plays golf. I love playing golf with him when he wants to play. I love hanging out with my daughter when she wants to spend time with dad. A 20, a recent 21-year-old.
Oh yeah.
Um, I like being outside, and recently I picked up pickleball. Um,
Really?
yeah, I mean pickleball. My best friend got me in June, and I just was bitten by it. It's been a lot of fun. I've had to stop playing for the last month because of COVID. Being outside, but I'd say playing golf, being with the family, and playing pickleball recently is really I've taken a love to it. So, obviously going to games and Final Fours and
Yeah.
those type of things I love doing. But at the end of the day, it's about family,
Yeah.
and it's being with my wife and kids whenever I can, as much as I can, is really what's most important.
That's awesome. That's really great that you're a big family person and spend time with your family and getting to go golf and play pickleball too. That's
Yeah.
really that's awesome. I think that's great, Coach. This has been absolutely amazing. It's so much fun. Really just enjoyed all the stories and your experiences, and we got to do this again. We got to do something again like this. This has been so
I'm
much fun.
ready, I'm ready for part two anytime.
Yeah, yeah. I get you right back on. This has
Yeah.
been
Well, thank
awesome.
you. I mean, it's been a pleasure for me to share my experiences, and if it could help anybody, that's what I'm trying to do each and every day. So, thank you for what you're doing with the run back. I think
Thank you.
it's great, and it's always fun to have something like this, and especially get feedback from local people. It's great. So, thank you for what you're doing and the amount of time you're putting into this.
Thank you so much, Coach. I really appreciate the kind words, and yeah, we'll definitely have you back on for sure. There's no doubt for sure. Once a guest, always a guest.
Yeah, that's right. And I'll get you a Roger sweatshirt one of these days.
Yeah, I definitely like that for sure. Thank you so much. Yeah, I appreciate it. I know we're on the real one. You got Coach Kyle obviously is gonna pull a sponsorship, but I'm wearing
Yeah,
it.
okay. All right. All
All right, Coach. Well, thank you so much. You have a good one. All right.
right. You well. Thank you. Thanks, Jeff.
Yeah, no anytime.